Sherry Loshi, and I'm the program coordinator for New Path Outreach. And I would like to invite Home Cooking Overhaul to New Path because, quite frankly, our neighbors need your help. They don't know what to do with the food that we give them. So if you could come out and help, that would be great. Thanks.
Boy, I know I have my work cut out for me tomorrow. It's gonna be a long day. This family really needs me. I better get some rest.
How long has it been here? Okay, so this is going on display in a museum. This is petrified.
Middle of January, what are we eating? I mean, is it in the pantry or?
Hi, and welcome to this special edition of Home Cooking Overhaul. It's also my season finale. This episode is going to bring me to New Path Ministries, where Sherry Loshi has invited me to work with the neighbors and do a demonstration on what to do with ingredients in the food pantry that no one knows how to use. Let me show you what to do. Let's take a look. Well, here I am at New Path Ministries, where I'm going to be doing a workshop to teach the neighbors that use the food pantry that they run here how to make quality meals with just the canned and dry and frozen ingredients that get donated. A lot of them don't know what to do with some of these ingredients, and they sit around on the shelf forever, way past expiration date. So here goes. Let's get started.
Well, here we are, and we're doing a nice little intimate session with the lovely Miss. You want to introduce yourself?
Tammy Schwartz.
Tammy Schwartz. She's here with us. We're doing a wonderful demonstration thanks to Home Cooking Overhaul, combined effort on my cooking show, and New Path Ministries here at Ginghamsburg Church in Tip City. I've been invited here to work with some of the neighbors in order to inform them and enrich their culinary experiences in what to do with food pantry ingredients such as these right behind me here. With very little fresh produce that we're going to use, but they do come in here on occasion, we're going to be mostly focused on the dry and canned ingredients that they get, along with some of the meats that a lot of folks just don't actually want to take. It's either too much work or they're not quite sure how to use it. So that's the purpose of this little educational workshop. And I gave Tammy a book to follow along with. It's a workbook. And what's nice about that, the first part of the book has things such as budgeting and keeping track of money, how to save money, setting a goal. But my main plan for this episode is using what ingredients you have at hand. So we're going to get started. And one of the big things, and I'd like to thank Sherry for inviting me here, because she's the one that actually said, Nick, this is what you have to work with.
Ingredients for this are tricky. I wanted to make every recipe with only the stuff that they had in that food pantry, just to show them what kind of options they had. Take a look at how much stuff they had that no one uses. Look at this.
I have what most people really don't quite know what to do with besides roast it, and that is a whole chicken. And Tammy, I'm going to show you how versatile a whole chicken can actually be. And there's probably 3 or 4 recipes in there, everything from chicken soup to You can roast a chicken easily, but it saves a lot of money, especially when you get them on clearance. This was $5 for a whole chicken. You couldn't get this much chicken and this much value out of it if you were to buy a bunch of white meat breast, legs, thighs, and all that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tear into this bird and take a look at what this little package has in store for us. You have wings. They're the ones that are supposed to do the flying. You have the legs that do the walking. And you have the breasts that do the walking. So, the best way to utilize an entire bird is with a fairly decently sharp knife, start around joints. And one of the big things is actually breaking the bird down. If you cut away all that connective tissue and then just pop it, you now have chicken wings. And you could price them out, they'll probably go for about 10 bucks a bag. Chicken wings don't have a lot of meat on them, but they are a very big party favorite. So if you have any sports fans or anybody that likes to hang around at a party, chicken wings are a nice way to please the crowd. The next part we're going to focus on is some leg and the thigh section of the bird. Have you ever done this before?
No.
No?
I either boil it or...
Boil it or roast it.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people do with a whole chicken.
So I'll boil it and shred it up and make shredded chicken sandwiches.
Well, that's good. And you're going to feel underneath where the bones actually connect. And with a simple pop and a little cut, and keeping the skin intact, you have a whole leg and the thigh right there. If you dredge this in flour, put it in a skillet with some oil, you got fried chicken. And what's nice about that is it costs a fraction of what you normally get in a store. So you could buy a tray of chicken quarters or a bag of wings and all that. What I do is I keep all my wings. I don't really use them for anything. If I buy whole chickens, we'll say the day after Super Bowl, and I start from there, the counter restarts, and I have bags and containers in a freezer, and I'll freeze them, and I'll get up to maybe 3-4 dozen wings, and I'll have a small party. You could just drop them in some oil, fry them.
That's a good idea.
And it saves you a lot of money on chicken. This is a small fryer, and for what we're going to do today, we're not going to use the skin on the breast part of the meat. So we're going to strip that back. You can use it for other things if you'd like. Some birds come with giblets. We didn't really explore into that. Typically, if you're going to roast a chicken, you want to get in there and make sure that the little package that it sometimes comes with of the giblets. But here you have the breast of the bird. And if you just find that bottom bone, slice right down, straight down, and your knife will start to hit bone. Just let the knife kind of kick out towards the edge, just scrape along the bone, and eventually you're going to have a huge piece of breast meat, just like that. What's nice about that is you can get, if you fillet it, you can get maybe 3 or 4 nice cutlets out of there. Again, right down that side of the bone this time. And again, letting our knife do all the work. Let it follow the bone. Right down. Right around. And then it's done. So, let's take a look at the breast first. If we were to take some fillets, and we just take our knife, holding our hand flat over top, and just slide it right through like that, here we have a nice thin cutlet. Now you have chicken cutlets. And you can do that a couple times. There's another nice little part right there. And the sharper the knives, the better they are. because then they just slide right through. We're actually going to take that and we're going to make a nice recipe with these. It's called chicken piccata. And chicken piccata is a butter lemon with a little bit of garlic. And do you eat butter? Okay, regular salted butter?
Yeah.
A little bit in the pan?
Yeah.
Okay, if not, you can substitute that with olive oil. I know that you said that you don't
Yeah, I
do a
do
lot
that.
of salt.
Yeah. I
But you
that.
can do that with the olive oil, and just what you do is you split the butter in half and use the rest of it with olive oil, just to give it enough grease in the pan to actually coat it. To make a chicken piccata, there's a couple different things. This is an Italian recipe. And one of the first things is some nice thin cutlets of chicken, which we just did. And I rely a lot on this little meat tenderizing hammer, but I don't like to bash it up because then it just sends juice flying all over the place. By simply rolling it like this and pressing it, it takes your cutlets, and then you can take the smaller end. It just tenderizes the meat. Okay. So we tenderize the meat, and then we actually put the seasoning on the meat because we're going to put some flour on this. So we have some garlic, some fresh ground black pepper, and a little bit of parsley. We're going to take that, press that into the meat, and then we're going to take our flour and we're going to get a little tray, which we have ready. Because we're going to dredge these cutlets now in the flour, press them in, just like that, and then we're going to shake them off. We have a frying pan here. Typically you want to use 4 tablespoons of butter. For a pan this size, we're going to use about half that. It's actually a little less than half. Well, now it's half. That's about 2 tablespoons right there. And we're going to substitute that other half of butter with olive oil. This way you still have the texture of the butter, have enough oil in the pan to get an even cooking temperature. Because the one thing that oil does, it really doesn't necessarily do much for flavor. That's what the butter does. But you need that fat in there to keep the even temperature and the full contact of the meat against the bottom of the pan. So we're going to drop that on a burner right there, and we're going to finish dredging these in the flour while that's melting. We're going to go over to the pan now, and we're going to drop these in there. We're just going to switch that around, coat the bottom of the pan, and you have maybe about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of butter on the bottom of the pan. We're going to drop that in. Sometimes a lot of people just look at a whole bird and they're just like,
What am I gonna do with it?
we roast it or broil it,
Yeah.
just like you did. But it's amazing. I mean, we just used one breast of a bird and we're already on our way to a whole meal.
Yeah.
We have chicken going right here in the frying pan. We can even whip up a vegetable real quick. We could do either sauteed spinach with garlic. I have a great green bean recipe. What do you prefer?
The spinach sounds
You want to
good.
try the spinach?
Yes.
Let's do a little sauteed spinach while this is going. We're going to crack this can open. So we're going to take a garlic clove. A lot of folks have trouble. They sit there trying to peel the garlic. Here's a trick. Ready? Pops right out. It's peeled. But then you can just give that a little chop right there. And we can use butter, but again, we're going to substitute olive oil. It's just fine. We're going to take a little bit of olive oil in there. Give it a little drizzle. We're going to take our spinach. And what I like to do is just kind of reserve a little bit of the juice because we're using canned spinach for this. You could use frozen spinach, fresh spinach, anything you want. Squeeze that lid down. Drop the garlic right in the oil. And drop the desired amount of spinach right in the pan. Now, we're going to take this, go right over to another burner, and we're going to put that once we light it. Right on the low. Keep in mind that canned vegetables are already cooked, and we don't want to overcook them. So if you don't want them to get mushy or anything like that. We're also going to, while we're over there, check on our chicken. We're going to go ahead with we're going to add some of that stock, and this is a pre-made stock already, but we're going to get a ladle, drop some of that in the pan.
Wow, chicken stock. It's quite easy. Once you make a big pot of it, like I did for this, you can actually take it and freeze it in smaller containers and use it as you need it. And what's nice is it stays for up to 6, maybe 10 months in your freezer.
And probably just about a cup right there. Take our lid and cover that up. And we're going to want to reduce our heat down to low and let that simmer. Now we're going to check in on our spinach. The oil is about heated up, and you see how that steam is coming off. We're going to break that up just to make it even in the pan. Now I reserved some of the spinach juice. This is nice. You can add it to a container for vegetable stock. You can use it to season. And eventually, once that's simmering at the temperature, you're going to see it bubble. We're going to add this in there just to add another flavor. So nothing's really going to waste, and it's silly to dump a great vegetable juice like that out. While that's cooking, we can take a look back at our chicken, because we're talking about making a soup or a stock out of some of these bones. And what's nice is we had a conversation before we started, and if you want to refresh my memory, you wanted to know about, it was
I asked about the leg of lamb.
leg of lamb. Yeah, and I said it's kind of like you can use the leg, you can use the bone for a stock.
Yes.
That was it. And we're going to separate the leg from the thigh part. And to do that, if you just take your finger right underneath, and you'll see where it connects, you'll feel a little knot there. You're just going to go right around that with your knife, and again, letting the knife do all the work. Just come right around, and once you cut all that off of there, sometimes you may want to take the back of the knife and give it a pop. And if that doesn't work, sometimes you're just going to have to get your hands dirty and do it manually. There we go. Well, what's nice about doing it that way is you have a bone here from the thigh that comes right out, and then all this is pretty much just meat. That you can fry up. Again, pulling the skin away from the leg. And what you're going to do is, just like we were talking about that leg of lamb, you can cut all this meat, shave it right off the bone, and then you can cut that up and make like fried chicken bites, popcorn chicken, however you'd like to season it. And then you just pull that bone right out like that. And if all your bones are thicker, they'll simmer and cook for a longer time. If you use the smaller bones from the breast and all that, and from the main body of the bird, what's going to happen is they're going to deteriorate in the water. They're not necessarily going to cook, and you're going to have a very grainy or sandy tasting chicken stock. And you're not going to want that.
Use the thigh and the leg.
Use the thigh, the big thigh bone, and the main leg bone. And it's okay to have some of this tissue still on there. But what you're going to do is you get a pot of water to a boil, stick that in there, about 2 gallons of water with about 2 of these bones, some tomato, onion, garlic, celery, and carrot. Let that boil down in a big pot for about 6 hours, 8 hours. You're going to have a delicious soup stock that you can use. You'll have 1.5 gallons to a gallon of stock, depending on how long you let it boil, that you can use for a bunch of soups that I'm going to teach you how to make. Bean soup, garlic soup, chicken noodle soup. Our sauteed spinach is pretty much almost done. We're going to bring our heat down. Actually, we can bring our heat all the way off. Just let it kind of sit there. and you'll kind of see what I mean. Canned spinach always looks a little darker than fresh spinach, especially once it's chopped. Here, I'm going to serve some out to you if you want to give that a shot. Give that a shot without the lemon. Now, it's not bad for canned spinach.
That's pretty good.
And no salt either. We didn't use butter, we just used straight oil. You can use salt and you can use butter. If you give it a little squeeze, I'll squeeze it on half of it right there, just in case you don't like it with the lemon. It brings out some acidity. And it's actually probably going to make the spinach pop a little more.
I do like it with the lemon.
You like it with the lemon better. There you go. We wanted to get rid of all those chicken bones and all that, so we pulled some out. We put them in a pot back there, boiling water. Through the magic of TV, it's been 6 hours, and we're now ready to actually drain our chicken stock that we have. And now with chicken stock, the way it works is it actually takes those bones and makes a chicken base. Looks just like chicken soup. Now notice the onion and the celery and the garlic and the carrot and all that we put in there 6 hours ago coming out. What we do is we just drain that off. Without the chicken bone, that would make a vegetable stock. And we're going to want to drain it one more time. We have in here, a majority of everything was strained out, but there's some finer particles that we don't want in there to actually make this a lot smoother. We're going to put this back in here, and we're going to return it to the pot to cool off. We're going to very carefully, this is a brand new, clean cloth that's going to get rid of any of the smaller particles that are in there. And if you look right there, that's what the cloth drained out.
Yeah.
So now you have a lot smoother and clear looking soup. And you see how most of our stock has evaporated already? It looks like it's almost done. Just going to give it one more turn just to make sure it's not sticking. And that's very tender and almost falling apart. Pretty much when you can poke the chicken, juices run clear, and I always like to check the thickest piece. Once it's white in the middle, it's done. And what you can do is you can add a little more parsley to garnish. You can serve this with some pasta. You can serve it with rice. And if you need a little extra salt, there's some extra salt here. Now, another great side dish and accompaniment to this, we were talking about the beans, right?
Yes.
Okay. Pop these open. Again, I'm going to reserve some of the juice. Right there with the spinach juice. We're going to get the rest of it in there, though, because you need a little bit of moisture so they don't burn and dry out. A little bit of cinnamon and some garlic. Here we have a fresh stick of cinnamon.
I've seen nothing like that before.
And we're just going to break it up a little bit just to get it in there. We're going to take some of our garlic, which we have right here. Just going to give it a mash right on the board. Easiest way to peel it. With this, we just want to kind of get some chunks in there, because just for seasoning, unless you like to eat the whole clove. Peel that off. We're going to take a little bit more of our broth. Pour it in there. That's fine. We're going to put a lid on this, and it's going to go right over the stove. And you want to cook this kind of slowly for about 15 minutes. The reason being is because you want that cinnamon flavor to actually start infusing with the beans. We're going to use some bacon and some more of our parts of our chicken to actually make this next little finger food that we're just going to put on toothpicks. To do this with fried bacon, doesn't get any better than that. We're actually going to fry it. You can also do it in the oven. And it's just a bacon wrapped chicken liver. Have you ever had chicken liver?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you like chicken liver?
Yes.
Okay. Because a lot of people don't quite know what to do with a chicken liver. So it's simple. You take some bacon, you take some liver, you wrap them in the bacon, and you skewer them, and you drop them in oil. So with our green beans, we've had them bubbling for a while. It's been about 15 minutes, and that cinnamon flavor should have seeped in by now.
It smells good.
Yeah, give you a little serving, a sample. There we go. Let me know what you think of that. And of course, the longer you keep the cinnamon in there, the more cinnamony they taste.
It's really good.
Something you would do or something you wouldn't do?
Yeah, I think I found a new way to cook my green beans.
Well, there you go. And especially from a can.
Yes.
If you use French cut green beans, you may want to do that with the cinnamon powder.
Okay.
This way it kind of, you know, you don't...
What's the difference? How much would you put in if you used the cans?
It would really depend
French
on, well, what I would do is for the French style, it just depends on your taste. A little bit of powdered cinnamon goes a long way. You don't want to have a lot of it. Like, you could use a whole stick of cinnamon.
Okay.
So, again, it depends on your taste, but just mind that you're going to use a lot less powder than you are the whole stick of cinnamon. One of my favorite vegetables to do is this version of corn. Corn only goes so far from a can. And in fact, even when it's fresh, it only goes so far.
Yes.
But what we're doing is we're doctoring it up a little bit. And what we're going to need is, to start, a little bit of maple syrup. And we're going to go with about 1/4 cup. Stir that in. You can do this with brown sugar and use even less, just to let you know. I typically like to put about 2 tablespoons in there. We're just going to give it a sprinkling. That should be enough. But we're just going to mix that up, and we're going to get it over on the heat covered for maybe about 5 minutes. And medium heat is fine. We just got to keep an eye on it. What that actually goes good with is pulled pork and this wonderful sauce here. What's nice about pulled pork is, and you can make pulled pork well ahead in a slow cooker. And you can use either pork shoulder, and that is a very common ingredient for them to have in the food pantry. They have everything from pork shoulder to ribs, anything, any one of these you can put in the slow cooker. If you can find a pork loin, you can do that. What we did was we slow cooked a pork loin. When you slow cook it, it gives it magic powers. What I like about the magic powers that a slow cooker gives a dish is that you can pull it. Because a little bit of a serrated knife and an actual fork, I don't know if you can see this, but just by giving it a pull, you're just pulling it apart, and see how stringy it is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was made earlier today. It was slow cooked for a good 6 hours. What we're going to do is we're going to take that, drop it right in a pan, and a little bit of pulled pork goes a long way. So this is something that you could make if you have a lot of time on like a Sunday or a Saturday. You can take a whole shoulder or a loin or even the ribs, slow cook them, put them in a container, and then throughout the week take what you want out. And there's many different things that you can do with it. For this particular recipe, we're going to use one of the 3,000 cans of this that they have sitting in the pantry. This is just straight up pulled pork. This was not done in any special seasoning or sauces or anything. It was water and the pork. That was it. Not even a dash of salt or pepper. I know, for me, no salt. But what you're doing is, if you make it plain, you can do anything you want with it later on. If you put it barbecue or anything like that, then you're stuck with that flavor. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the sauce, about a half a can, depending on how much you're making. We're going to put it right in the pan, and it's going to go right on our burner until it gets good and hot. In the meantime, this Sherry, the project coordinator, or program director, program coordinator here, told me about this, and I said, you know, this could make a very nice recipe. So I made it for the first time the other night, and when I got to my friend's house with it, they loved it. So one of the tricks to a soft tortilla that doesn't fall apart is putting it in some foil and putting it in the oven at about 350 to 400 degrees depending on your oven. It keeps the tortillas soft. By wrapping them, they don't get crunchy or hard or anything in the oven. And if you don't heat them up, they're just too brittle. It's just like dry paste. Sauce up with the pulled pork we just put in there.
Yes.
Just letting it go like that. While that's going, we're also going to check on our corn. I just want to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom with all that sugar and the maple syrup in there. Our tortilla should be done. Kill our oven. And hopefully these got warm enough. There we go. Nice little bit of heat there. We've got our pork. And watch how this works. Take a tortilla. This one's a little bigger. And that. Scoop some of that out. Right in there. It's almost like a little pulled pork burrito. Like that.
Really easy.
Nice and easy. I mean, that literally took, once you have the pork done, that literally takes 10 minutes. Over there.
It's really good.
Now, aside from that, some ingredients I went there the day before and actually got because they were going to take some time. I wanted to make for that pulled pork recipe, I had to slow cook that pork, and there's nothing fun about going to a demonstration watching pork slow cook in a crock pot. So that was done the day before, but keep in mind, you can make a whole big shoulder or rump or butt or shoulder roast and just have it in the fridge for up to a week, and you can make a number of different dishes with it. We just made one dish here, and let's go take a look at what else we're making.
So our corn is done. Maple, sugar. So I don't know if you want to try a little bit of that now. And again, maple syrup, sugar, and a can of corn right here from the pantry.
It smells great. You really smell the maple flavor.
Oh yeah.
That is good. That's delicious.
We're going to make some of these delicious treats right here in the oil. Just going to drop them right in. Carefully, or as far away as you can. These can also be done in the oven. You can heat an oven to about 350 degrees and let them cook for a while. And the only thing these are the chicken livers wrapped in the bacon, which they always have plenty containers of chicken livers in their freezers and refrigerators here. They're easier to work with when they're cold, and as all it is, a chicken liver, and I take a strip of bacon, cut it in half, drop it right in some oil. And it take about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how hot the oil is, to actually cook. So I rely on a thermometer that'll tell me when the oil gets close to 350 degrees. Never stand over the oil when you're putting stuff in it. I always stand off to the side. And a thermometer to keep your oil regulated always helps as well. Some thermometers you can get them that have a wide range, anywhere from 30 or minus 55 degrees to 372 degrees. Anything chicken that you deal with that's wrapped in bacon, the bacon, fried bacon, is going to cook quick. But the main concern is what's inside the counts. Any chicken you want to make reach, you want it to reach 160 to 165 degrees. And you always just keep an eye on it, watch for any smoking. That means it's starting to get maybe a little too hot. You want to pull the heat down, which we did.
Now on that bacon chicken, I know you said earlier it's best to use the liver when it's slightly frozen.
Slightly frozen.
If it's not frozen, is it best to maybe when you do roll it up, maybe freeze it before you deep fry it?
Yes. Well, you don't want to freeze it before you deep fry it. You want the livers to be somewhat firm when you work with them. Livers can be very soft and they make a big mess. They run around, they run. It's a lot of juice in the liver. So if you slightly freeze them and then take them out in batches as you do it, and you cut the livers, I cut them in 4 sections, and then I take the bacon, and I have bacon, and I just take a half a strip per piece of liver.
Okay.
And then that actually keeps it, you know, it wraps it up. You secure it with a toothpick. And then if you have to hold them for a while before you're going to fry them, just put them in the fridge.
Oh, okay.
But I wouldn't hold them for any more than an hour in the fridge, or they start to get runny and juicy. You can also marinate them, the livers beforehand in garlic, soy sauce, or teriyaki sauce, or Worcestershire, however you want to do it. Or you can serve that sauce on the side. Soy sauce makes a great accompaniment with them. Same thing with teriyaki. Or you can use Worcestershire. A honey and ginger sauce works. You just have honey. And so any way you want to serve them, some people just like them in mustard or Dijon mustard.
Boy, Tammy Schwartz, she's brave. She actually wanted to be on camera, and we're glad she was. She got front row seats to every meal. She was the first one to try everything, so I hope she enjoyed herself. And thanks for coming out, Tammy.
He taught me a lot on everything I've been eating today. It's easier for me to be able to cook. It's simple. Even for me, I always seem to have all the ingredients he has here, which makes it a lot easier. I don't have to run out and buy anything. My grandkids are here a lot, and I know they will enjoy a lot of this, and I can get them to eat vegetables. I love the corn with the maple syrup and the green beans. Excellent. Never would have thought about putting cinnamon in green beans. I thought the chicken was the best I've had. I didn't know there was such a variety of ways to cook it, and I really enjoyed the flavors. And it was perfect. So I'm taking a lot home with me, lots smarter on what I'm cooking now. So I've enjoyed my time here and hope to come back.
Well, that was a long afternoon. It was almost a full day of cooking. And I'm glad that some people showed up and wanted the food that I prepared, and they liked it too. So besides who you saw on camera, there were a lot of people there that just enjoyed the meal and the food that we made. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember that don't just think of the food pantries around the holidays like most people do. Think of them all year round, because they really need your help, and the neighbors really appreciate any support and any contribution that anybody can make. So whether it's just a few cans or a can each time you go shopping that you donate, or you go on a crazy couponing trip and give thousands of dollars of groceries, it's really appreciated, and the neighbors that use these food pantries, not just here locally, but throughout the country, really need your help and support. So don't forget them. I'll see you next season on Home Cooking Overhaul.
If you or someone you know would like to be on Home Cooking Overhaul, please visit nickpiercefood.com.